Greetings, namaste, Monsoon Biswakarma here, right now at Audio Advent, bringing you another pedal for another day. And today we have Verb Core by NUX. Now, this is one of their flagship uh, reverb pedals on their core lineup, and this is called Verb Core Deluxe. And what it gives you is a variety of reverb choices with decay level, and this tweak that you see right here is to control different kinds of modulations or tone functions in different kinds of reverbs. So as we go, you will get to hear all of them. And without further ado, let's go directly through the website at NUX. So yeah, Verb Core Deluxe. Ambience in motion. The NUX Verb Core Deluxe is a reverb pedal with 8 different types, including room, hall, plate, damp, sim, spring, trem verb, and mod verb. You can select the reverb type by using the type knob. So yeah, there's 8 different kinds of reverb options to select from. So I don't think you will run out of options here. So right out of the bat, I think it becomes a good option for all you analog players who don't want too many reverb pedals to get stacked on their board, but want a complete reverb solution just in simple single unit. And even the price that it comes with, like, I think it provides itself as a pretty good unit to be on your pedal board. Right now, as we speak and make this video, this unit is sold at $99 on Amazon, which is, for everything that it's doing, pretty fantastic, like $99. What have you got to lose? A decent pedal, comes in a decent casing, and has stereo out, and pretty nifty functions also that we will run throughout the video. And the decay knob is going to adjust your length of reverb. The level knob is going to adjust the mix level of the overall reverb that you hear. And the tweak knob adjusts different parameters for different kinds of reverb. For example, we have room reverb. On the room reverb, it controls tone. On the hall, it controls liveliness. On the plate, it controls tone. On the damp, it controls tone. For the sim, it controls the simmer amount. For the spring, again, it controls tone. For the trem verb, it controls the tremolo. And for the mod verb, it controls modulation. So one knob doing different kinds of things depending on the kind of reverb that you're choosing. Now, the nifty little tweak that I was talking about is given by this small switch right here. It goes among 3 settings. The toggle switch is used to go between true buffer bypass and our unique tone lock feature. Select tail to set the pedal to buffer bypass when you're selecting the tail, which is the upper one. So there's 3 levels. The upper one is the tail. So when you select that, you go to the buffer bypass to keep the reverb spillover while you disengage the effect. So when you switch off the pedal after you have used it, the tail will not disappear. And if that's the kind of setting that you want, you switch to the tail section. And now the TB means true bypass. There is no spillover while you disengage the effect. As soon as you switch off the effect, the spillover is also gone. Now the T-lock feature, which means the tone lock, again, this is one feature that I think a lot of you players can appreciate on stage. And if you're not one of those guys who likes to fiddle around with your time-based effects, with your delays, with your reverb, on this particular case, the reverb in particular, if you don't like to fiddle around when you're playing with it, and you like to lock it, the kind of settings that you have there, lock it and then play it all throughout the set, I think this feature will come in handy. The T-lock function is a quick way to store and lock your current parameters setting to prevent accidents while on stage. After you set the parameters, just toggle the switch to T-lock position, then the LED indicator will flash green 2 times to store and lock the parameters. Then you can engage or disengage the effect by the foot switch worry free, which is a pretty good thing. And this one I think I need to show you for you to be able to hear. So when you hold this pedal, I don't know if you heard it right. There was this sudden swell when I held the pedal. Now let's read what that was doing. Press once to disengage or engage the effect. While you are engaged on the effects, press the hold foot switch. That will trigger the freeze function. So basically, what you heard was whatever you play, and as you hold the pedal, what happens is it will freeze whatever note it's coming out. And in this case, with the reverb, it will hold the spill, it will hold the decay, it will hold the time of the reverb right where you placed it, and it will sort of give you this bump in the mix. So whenever you're doing ambient kinds of stuff and whenever you need to go away from one part to another, I think this will come in pretty handy. And this is something that I'd love to use for my use case scenarios, which is again pretty nice. Kudos to the NUX team. And another function that it has is the kill dry. This function allows you to get fully processed signals without any dry signals, so you are able to get pure dry amp sound and pure wet amp sound with parallel gear chain, or to reach a new level of ambience effects if the original mixing is not just enough for your ideas. Now it is powered by 9-volt power supply. The USB port is given to get hook this up to your computer so you can upgrade. Again, you can do that with the DFU updater, and you can get all the information about it on the website itself. And they have also put out these routing options here, which are pretty elaborate. So if you're into those kind of things, definitely try. So yeah, without further ado, to keep this video simple and for the convenience purposes, what we have done is we will select through all the different reverb types. We have selected one clean amp and one distorted amp, and all the reverbs that you will hear are going to come through those two amps, one at a time. And let's hear how it sounds. As I mentioned before, the tweak is going to do different things depending on what kind of pedal it is on. So let's put the decay and the level at 12 o'clock, and this toggle on the up. And the first one is a room reverb. On the room, the tweak is only controlling the tone of the reverb. With the pedal disengaged, this is how the amp sounds on its own. Pretty full sounding, but pretty dry. Now, as soon as the reverb is engaged, and I think the room reverb works pretty well. Let's increase the delay and the level too. Now the level is maxed out and the delay is full blown. So on maximum levels, you can hear that it tears a bit. It reaches to this break point. Now, let's do the same thing on the distorted end. We're going back to 12 o'clock on all settings. Again, let's increase the decay and the level. at 4 o'clock, and the decay is pulled back all the way down. Now you do hear the level of the reverb mix, but you don't hear the tail and its time behind it. So it feels like everything is happening in a pretty snappy amount of time. So yeah, those are the kinds of tweaks that you can get with the room reverb, and it's pretty convincing, pretty nice. The next up is hall. With the hall, it is the tweak function is going to act as something that will control the liveliness of the hall, whatever that means. To get a feel of it, let's put it on the minimum. Let's go to 12 o'clock. I think what's happening is it is sort of like a spread control. As you increase it, the sound of the attack thins out and everything spreads. Now, when you're increasing the level, now the hall reverb is something that I've always used on the strumming kind of situations when I need to do and it makes the chords sound pretty full and pretty roundabout, and all in all it sounds like a good rhythm strum. So now on the hall reverb, let's go to a distorted amp. Again, with delays or pedals like this kind of reverb, whenever you're tweaking around with your volume knob here, as you roll back, you're taking away the low end too, and since this has a treble bleed circuit, you're not losing highs. But when your notes are reverberating, everything is reverberated. So as you push it out with more lows, with more gains, with more distortions, all those notes are also reverberated, and as you come back, you are rolling off the lows and you're taking away the distortions. So the effect of reverb, whatever it should be on the sound, also changes, and it provides you pretty much a good array of options to play with. So yeah, if you're using pedals like this, definitely check it out with your volume roll off. And without further ado, let's go to the next one. The next is a plate reverb. Now this, in the olden times, were simulated by big ass plates. So right now also we are at the tail mode. It has a very good spread. instantly reminded of bands like Explosions in the Sky. This will destroy you. So let's decrease the decay. And on this particular one, the plate, the tweak is controlling the tone of the reverb. So with it full, as you decrease the tweak, you can hear the tone coming down from the reverb. Now let's put the level on the 12 clock and max out the decay. It creates this woolly ambience behind all the notes. Because the length of the reverb has been increased, but the level is at 12 o'clock. So what you hear is, you can hear the notes clearly, but behind it you hear this woolly kind of ambience, and that's what plate reverb does. I mean, the plate reverb does to your sound at this level. Now let's briefly see what the tone lock does. I've engaged to tone lock, and I don't know if you saw it, but the light blinked here. So whatever the knob settings were before I engaged to the tone lock, now it will sort of lock to that. So no, doesn't matter how much I tweak now. So it has no effect whatsoever. Because whatever settings I locked while I was on the upper setting, when I moved down to the tone lock, it locked it saved my settings, and that's what I'm going to get throughout the set if I don't change it again. Now let's come down to the true bypass. Now what happens in true bypass is, when you switch off, the tail disappears. But when you do the same thing on the tail, so you do hear the reverb switching off, but the tail still remains. So yeah, pretty nifty tricks for a unit that comes in this size and at this price. And doesn't matter what kind of reverb you prefer, like, you're bound to find a good option in this unit, because there's 8 different kinds of reverbs with a good amount of tweaks provided, so you can dial in your tone pretty well. So yeah, spend some time with it, you will get what you're looking for. Without further ado, let's move to the next. I think throughout all the 8 different kinds of reverbs, this one is my favorite. This is the damp, and what this sounds like, let's hear. On the cleans, that's the amp only. Now engaging the reverb. I don't know why I like this so much. This, if I had to put it in the simplest word possible, that the word that comes to me is tight. Like, this reverb to me sounds very tight compared to everything else. It's almost as if it has a compression of its own. Like, you hear it. This is switched off. Now switched on. Just like I said, it's almost like it has its own kind of compression. With the damp, now let's go full on the decay, and 3 o'clock on the levels, 12 o'clock on the tweak. When that reverb time is elongated so much so like it really sounds huge, and tonally you don't get lost, like you can still hear the notes ringing off very well and clear. Now let's do the same thing on a distorted amp. Again, I'll be rolling off the volume. You can hear the overtone. So pretty great for your ambient kind of noises and ambient kind of parts when you're starting a song or getting to the outro section of the song. And you don't have to use the decay in that crazy amount all the time. Like, let's hear how it sounds on a minimum. Putting the decay at minimum and tweak and level at 12 o'clock. Pretty musical. Now let's go to the next one. The next one is Simmer. And I guess for the modern players who are out there for huge ambient kind of noises, Simmer is the kind of reverb that you will prefer. With the tweak knob here, what we will control on the Simmer is we will control the level of the amount of simmer that you put behind the reverb. That glassy tone that you're hearing right behind is the amount of simmer that's coming. And what happens at simmer is whatever note you're playing, it puts that note octave up and then puts it in the feedback. So in every reverb, every time you're playing the note and the reverb is coming, you hear that simmer. And the level here is controlling the level of reverb mix that goes into the tone. So as I mentioned, pretty huge sounding. Now let's hear the same thing on the clean amp. And I guess you'll hear it clearer on this sound, like this alien kind of sound running on the background. That's your simmer. Pretty useful to come up with ambient noise kind of things, or doing putting the simmer at 12 o'clock. I do wish that when I put the decay at maximum and the levels at maximum, I do wish that it broke up a little later. But again, for this kind of price, this device itself is pretty enough for what it's doing. And when it comes at this price, that does not really concern me for something that I'd complain about. Like, I can always reach a little behind from whatever setting that I'm using, and by that I mean I can always tweak it to some kind of bare minimum to whatever sounds I'm going to require. Like, if it breaks here at this full level, I might be able to bring it to not break at this. So that much amount of compromise I'm okay with, but it's just something to wish for. And since this is an upgradable device, you can update it with a firmware. I think if NUX could provide a firmware update where these things are addressed for, and I don't know if they have already addressed it, but this is just my first-hand experience as I'm using it. And now, everybody's favorite, I guess, the spring reverb. Now this simulates the reverb coming out of springs on let's start from minimum amount of decay and the level at 12 o'clock. On the driven amp, so it comes from this kind of reverb comes from reverb tanks that have springs reverberating in them, and whatever reverb you're hearing is a reaction of those springs coming in action. So it's pretty, I think out of all the reverbs, if snappy is a word that I can give, it is for the spring reverb, because even with the driven amp, it sounds pretty, and I think that's why a lot of blues players love it. Great to dig into a note like the room. You don't get this roomy kind of feel. I mean, right, exactly like the room, sorry. You also get this roomy kind of feel, and exactly like the hall, you get that spread, but it brings that room and hall vibe to this. It mosses it up and then sort of gives it in a very unique spring kind of texture. And to me, spring reverb always feels pretty readily usable. I mean, you could use the spring reverb in almost any kind of situation. That's how versatile spring reverbs are. And that again just might be my own taste. A lot of you might even prefer room or hall for that matter. It's all matter of preference. It's very subjective, to each his own. So now let's bring the decay to 12 o'clock. Even when the decay is full, you don't get that crazy amount of ambience where you feel like it's uncontrollable. And I'm in the driven amp too. So in the crazy meter, if there was a meter for crazy, I think spring reverb would be the most sane reverb that there is. Pretty versatile, pretty usable in everything that you do. So without further ado, let's go to the next one. The next is a trem verb, something that I really love. Now, on the effects side, tremolo is something that I've always used and I keep using consistently on my clean amps. The tweak here is going to control the amount of, the rate of tremolo that we are going to keep. So, and the decay and level work for the reverb. A beautiful throb that comes out consistently. Now let's decrease the tremolo time. Sorry, the rate of tremolo. Pretty good there. Same thing on the drive section. Dial back on the reverb a bit. Now let's push the tremolo rate to 3 o'clock, which is pretty much our maximum. And the rate of tremolo is going to sort of dictate whatever you're going to play. Like if you realize when I put the rate at minimum, you sort of lean towards playing things that have low tempo. But as soon as you go max, you are lenient to playing things a little faster. pretty effective for what it does. Coming back to the clean, and I think we're at the last of all our reverbs. Putting the decay and the level and the tweak at 12 o'clock. Now this one is a mod verb, and on the mod verb, what the tweak is going to control is the amount of modulation that you are going to get within the reverb, and the decay and the level are for reverb as usual. It puts a little bit of chorus on top of your reverb. And with the tweak option, you can definitely control the amount of reverb that you want. Sorry, the amount of chorus. When you're putting it at minimum. And when you are maxed out, it goes very near to the rotary kind of effect. And you could do crazy stuff when you engage the distortion. Bring it back to 3 o'clock. Back to the clean amp. Now let's go bonkers. So yeah, that was your Verb Core by NUX, and pretty impressive for the kind of device it is. And if I had to rate it in terms of sound, I think it does not yet quite get exactly the kind of range that I would like to hear, and the kind of range that I'm used to. But again, it is a firmware upgradable kind of device, so NUX can always bring out an update and address those issues if they are an issue for you. But if you're not into too much of reverb, and if you're not like, if you want a device that you if you want a device that you want to experiment with in the reverb section, this becomes a pretty handy device. In $99 you can get a good amount of options, and all of them work pretty well as I demoed here in this video. And on the second scenario, if a reverb is something that you want to experiment with on your current pedal board, like you already have a reverb that you like but you want more and you don't want to spend too much while still getting a good amount of quality, a good amount of quantity, which it does provide, this becomes a pretty good solution for that too. And again, for the synth players uh, who do who who are pretty much into the Korg mini log kind of things, like this device for you guys too becomes a pretty handy device, like when you want that extra effect for all your synth sounds for $99. Like, I don't think you can go wrong with this. So yeah, that has been the NUX Verb Core, and I've been Monsoon. See you when I see you. Monsoon out. So yeah, one thing that I forgot, it comes with this pretty neat looking box package, and yeah, like it looks nice, looks very standard, and I don't think your pedal is going to get hurt when you drop it in the box like this. So yeah, that was it.